class. Today I will be presenting my final project, which is a water quality analysis and assessment. We have selected a dataset on water quality provided by the Canadian government. We shall be using this dataset to conduct analysis and comprehend data to provide information on water quality in the given area. This project will help understand areas of improvement and provide clarity in our research. The following are the research questions that we will be answering throughout our analysis. How do multiple water quality parameters collectively influence water safety for human consumption? How does the pH of water correlate with its potability classification of the water? How can classification methods effectively differentiate water sources for consumption from those intended for industrial use based on key parameters? So, what methods of analysis will we use for answering the research questions? Number one is cluster analysis. Number two is two-sample t-test. Number three is a classification model. In this case, classification model, this method will be used to determine the impact of various water parameters such as pH, hardness, dissolved solids, etc. on water quality. So just like how we discussed the first research question, we can see that this is what we were talking about over there when we talked about the water parameters. The study used a logistic regression classification model since the dependent variable quality of water was a dummy factor. The following is the result of the analysis. We can see that this is a figure that represents the pH levels safe and unsafe for drinking. And based on these results, the pH levels of water that were safe for human consumption were slightly lower than the pH levels of water that were not safe for human consumption. Next, we have this table, which is a classification model result table. These are the results that we have reached from the classification model. So based on these results, we can conclude that we do not have sufficient evidence to conclude that the turbidity of the water has a meaningful impact on the water quality. This is the second table. These are the results of the independent sample t-test. These findings, in short, suggest that potable and non-potable water did not significantly differ in their average pH. This is the second figure, which is showing two clusters of water based on quality. This is a cluster plot. So the interpretation of the two clusters in the figure are as follows. The K-means clustering revealed two groups, the safer consumption group and the unsafer consumption group. The results in cluster 1 showed that the water might not be safe for human consumption, as it had a lower level of dissolved solids. Cluster number 2 showed that the water might be safe for human consumption, as it had higher total dissolved solids. The trends of pH and conductivity, among others, were the same between safe and unsafe water for human consumption. The clustering method effectively differentiated water sources for consumption from those intended for industrial use based on key parameters. From this study, we can conclude that people should consume cluster 2 water, but more scrutiny will be needed for consuming water from cluster 1. Maybe the water for cluster 1 can be used for industrial use, while the one from water 2 can be used for consumption and household use. For the prediction of whether the water is safe for consumption or not, the logistics model and the cluster model can be used. The logistic regression model examined the impact of water quality parameters on portability. The model showed that parameters like pH and sulfate showed less influence on whether the water was safe for consumption or not. So these are the references for the final project today. And also, I would just like to add that this entire project has really helped us answer the research questions that we were talking about in the beginning. We can see that we have found the answer to each of these throughout our analysis, and we have used different analytical methods and tools. Thank you for your time and watching.